Hello everyone and welcome to K-5 Adventures in 3, 2, 1. My name is Miss Sarah and today we are going to be learning about tall tales. So we'll be doing that with 3 fun facts. We're going to do 2 activities that you can do at home and we'll be reading 1 book while we're together today. So let's begin. So I've got a little bit of a challenge for you guys. First we're going to do some true or false questions. So when I say the sentence, if you think it's true, I want you to give me a big thumbs up. If you think what I said was false, there's no way it's true, big thumbs down. All right, so for our first true or false question today, true or false, a tall tale is told as if it's a true story, but it has exaggerated or unbelievable parts to the story. What do you think, true or false? So if you said true, you are correct. So a tall tale is told as if it's a true story, but it definitely has some exaggerated parts in it. So if I said I went on a fishing trip and I caught a fish that was as big as this library, I would be telling you a tall tale. So it might be true that I went on a fishing trip and I caught a fish, but the exaggeration in that story is the size of the fish. All right, good job. Now it's time for our second true or false question. So number 2, true or false? All tall tales are about made-up people and events. What do you think? Thumbs up if you think true, thumbs down if you think false. So this one is false, but I gave you guys a little bit of a trick question because this one is sort of true. So there are definitely some tall tales that are about completely made up people and events that definitely didn't happen, but there are actually a lot of tall tales that are about people who actually existed in history and about real historical events. So one example that you guys might recognize, have any of you ever heard about Johnny Appleseed before? Definitely a popular one. So Johnny Appleseed was actually a real person. His name was John Chapman, but he was a real person who planted all of those thousands of acres of apple trees. But some of his stories were definitely exaggerated over time, and he's become kind of a tall tale legend. There's some other historical figures that were kind of turned into tall tale heroes are Davy Crockett, Calamity Jane, Daniel Boone is another one too. So kind of tricked you guys on that one, but that one is false. There's definitely some real people who were turned into tall tales. And our last one, true or false? Originally, these tall tales were shared through storytelling and word of mouth rather than being written in books. Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. What do you think? So this one is true. So back in the 1800s when tall tales were popular, it wasn't as common to own books as it is today. Books were pretty expensive and a lot of people didn't know how to read during that time too. So a lot of these stories, tall tales, folk tales, were shared through storytelling or word of mouth. So if you've ever been camping and sat around a campfire telling stories, it's kind of like that. So a lot of the lumberjacks and railroad workers and even pioneers just exploring the American frontier would share these tall tales through storytelling and word of mouth. Great job, guys. You did an excellent job with those true or false questions. I hope you learned something new about tall tales. So next up, we are going to read our book today. So this one's a little bit of a play on Paul Bunyan. It is Paula Bunyan by Phyllis Root. And while we're reading this, not only do I need you to listen, but I have a special job for you. Every time you hear me read something that you think is definitely not true, couldn't happen, not possible, I want you to raise your hand. And by the time we finish reading the book, we'll see how many tall tales we can catch in this story. So this is Paula Bunyan by Phyllis Root. Everyone knows about Paul Bunyan with his woodcutter's axe and his big blue ox Babe, but not many people know about Paula Bunyan, his little sister. Maybe little isn't the right word. After all, she was as tall as a pine tree and as strong as a dozen moose. Are you raising your hand? I think we caught our first exaggeration. Good job. 3 times out of 6, she could out-wrestle Paul, and she always outran him. Paula could run so fast that once when she forgot to do her chores, she ran all the way back to yesterday to finish them and got back to today before anyone even knew she was gone. Being big did have its drawbacks though. Paula just seemed to have a knack for accidentally busting furniture and knocking over wagons. And when she burst into song, glass would shatter and stone walls crack. It got so Paula took to humming under her breath instead of singing out loud, just so nobody would holler that she was breaking their windows or chipping their best china. For a while, Paula had a job running the local ferry. People and cows, barrels and bales, horses and pigs would pile on board. Then Paula would pick up the ferry and carry it across the river. But she got tired of never having any dry socks and restless from being around so many breakable things. Look at that, she picked up the entire ferry to carry it across the river. She must be pretty strong. So after Paul shouldered his axe and set off to find himself famous, Paula decided to set off too. She had a hankering for the wilderness, for wide, wild spaces with room enough for her and her singing. "We'll pack you a little snack," her ma said, as her parents loaded a sack with 253 loaves of bread, over a dozen wheels of cheese, several bushels of apples, 20 gallons of cider, and a barrel each of salt and pepper. That is a lot of food. Paula set off for the North Woods, where she had heard the trees were so tall the clouds got stuck on the tops, and a body could go for months without running out of forest to walk through. She traveled for weeks, till the people thinned out and the trees grew thick. When she came to a place where the water was so blue the fish swam around in the sky and the birds flew around in the lakes because they couldn't tell the difference, she knew she was in the North Woods at last. Paula was so happy she burst into song, starting a moose stampede and knocking eagles out of their nests for miles around. That first night, she camped by the side of a river. The wolves, smelling something new, came to investigate, nosing around her campfire and howling, "Who are you?" Anyone else might have turned tail and run, but not Paula. She decided those wolves needed a singing lesson or two. By the time the next day dawned, she had them all singing in a 3-part harmony. After that, the woods rang every night to the singing of Paula and her new friends. And there they are singing, "Row, row, row your boat." One day, Paula was fishing with her line up in the sky when up walked a black bear, 7 feet tall, with claws like 30-penny nails. Anyone else may have crawled up the nearest tree, but not Paula. When that bear growled, she growled right back. When that bear smacked a tree trunk, Paula smacked another one, harder. Paula says, "Grrr!" The bear says, "Grrr?" I don't think he knew what he got himself into. They kept it up for a while, growling and roaring and smacking things, when suddenly, Paula had a nibble on her fishing line. She excused herself to the bear and pulled in a little northern pike, about 100 pounds, little. The bear roared loud and hungry, but Paula just whopped it on the nose. "I don't mind sharing if you ask polite-like," she said, "and if you wait until I cook it up with a little salt and pepper." Pretty soon, that bear was following Paula around, leaning up against her while she fished, helping her eat her catch. That bear got so spoiled that whenever they came to a creek, Paula had to carry the bear across just to keep its paws dry. Lots of folks may have killed that bear and used his skin for a blanket, but not Paula. She used the whole bear for a foot warmer. At night, after a singing session with the wolves, she just pulled him over her feet like a bearskin rug and slept toasty warm until morning. Now, folks say the mosquitoes up north are pretty bad, and I believe it's true, because one day, a few hungry mosquitoes carried off Paula's bear. Paula wasn't about to see her friend and foot warmer devoured by some bloodthirsty insects. She pulled out the pepper her ma had packed and flung it into the air. You've never heard such a sneezing and snorting as those mosquitoes made. They sneezed and snorted that bear loose, and before it hit the ground, Paula was there to catch it and fuss over it. That night, their fish didn't taste quite so spicy without any pepper, but neither of them complained. Those are some pretty big mosquitoes to be able to carry off a bear. Whew. Paula walked for miles and miles. Those trees just never seemed to run out, and neither did her happiness. But one morning, Paula came to the end of the trees. They didn't just thin out, they stopped, and where the trees had stood green and tall, there were little stumps on the ground. The sight made Paula sadder than a forest full of weeping willows. Paula followed those stumps till she came to some folks who were cutting down trees with their long cross-cut saws. As far as the eye could see, the hillside was crawling with fellows with axes and saws like termites at a timber free-for-all. Something needed to be done, all right. But what? Paula was big and those fellows were just little bitty mites, but there was only one of her and a lot of them. Pesky as a bunch of mosquitoes, Paula thought, and didn't that give her an idea? I wonder what she's going to do. Back in the woods she went, looking for some of those North Country mosquitoes. When she finally found a flock roosting by a beaver swamp, she called out to them and ran right by so they would see all of her skin that's ready to bite. When she got within a boulder's throw of the lumberjacks, she put on a little burst of speed. All the lumberjacks felt was a strong breeze as Paula whooshed by. The mosquitoes took one look at those lumberjacks standing there, put on their brakes, and started to feast. Now, these were medium-sized mosquitoes, not much bigger than chickens, but they were enough to drive those lumberjacks wild. It was too much for the lumberjacks. They took off running like it was payday and never did come back to the North Woods. Paula laughed so hard, the birds for miles around took cover, thinking that the grandpappy of all storms was blowing their way. Size of chickens, those are pretty big mosquitoes. Then Paula got busy replanting trees where those lumberjacks had cut them down and carted them away. If you're ever up in the North Woods, you might see some of those trees that Paula planted. On a clear night, you might see the light from Paula's campfire flickering against the sky. If you listen carefully, you might hear the wolves howling in three-part harmony. You might even hear Paula singing, "Happy in a Country Just Her Size." And here she is with her wolves singing, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Awesome job. Thank you for listening so well to that, guys. Did you catch a bunch of tall tales? I know I did. I think I counted 17 tall tales in this book. That's quite a lot. All right, so it's time for our 2 activities that you can do along with me or do on your own at home. For our first one today, I want you guys to use your imaginations to create your own tall tale hero. So I went ahead and did that on my own. I created Cannonball Callie. So she is a powerful cannonballer, and I gave her, a fun name. I encourage you to give your character a fun name as well. I drew a little picture of her. It's always great to show off your artwork, and then I did some background info as well. So I'll just read you a little bit about Cannonball Callie. So I made up that she was raised by a pod of dolphins. That's why she loves swimming so much and why she's such a great cannonballer. They taught her how to jump in the water. And her cannonballs are so powerful, they've caused earthquakes, which led to volcanoes to erupt, which formed a formation of islands in the Pacific Ocean. And the farmers in California would ask Callie to cannonball in their lakes and rivers because her cannonballs created such big waves that they were able to water their crops during a drought. And they were so thankful that they named the state of California after her, Cannonball Callie. So I encourage you to create your own tall tale hero at home, draw a picture, write a little story if you want. Really get creative with this. And I would love to see what you can come up with. Our second activity kind of draws off of this. I thought it would be fun if you created a puppet show out of the character you create. So we are going to make some super simple stick puppets today. You don't need a lot of materials, just like this for this one. Some paper, some markers, something to write with. And for the stick puppets, you can use a popsicle stick if you have one at home. You can also use a plastic utensil or a disposable straw, whatever you've got laying around, maybe even an unsharpened pencil. Just anything that you can use for your stick puppet. So I took Cannonball Callie, made her kind of little tiny here. I also did a little dolphin friend for her, and this one I already made just some waves so she can cannonball into them. So like I said, super simple. All you need is a little popsicle stick. So I'm gonna take Cannonball Callie and turn her into a little puppet. You can use glue, so if you have got some stick glue at home, liquid glue, or you know what, you can even just use tape. That is fine too. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of tape here, trusty tape. Just need a small little piece. I'll take Cannonball Callie and the popsicle stick, and I'm just gonna tape the popsicle stick to the back of Cannonball Callie, and what do you know? Now she can be doing cannonballs into the waves all day long. So you can have endless amounts of fun with these stick puppets. You can put on puppet shows for your family and friends. You can just, hide behind the couch or a little table and act out the little creations that you made from your tall tale hero. And that's it, simple as that. All right, so this is a little bonus activity for you guys. I created a tall tale Mad Lib that you can do on your own at home. If you're unfamiliar with Mad Libs, that is totally fine because I'm gonna show you a quick example of how you do one. So this is kind of a story where you fill in the blanks to create your own story. And of course, they're tall tale themed today since we're learning about tall tales. So this one I've got here for you guys is The Legend of Jumping Jack. So instead of just reading the story, first we need to fill in the blanks. So our first blank here, we need a number. So I've got a couple of little prompts over here that are going to help us fill in our answers today. So let's see what number I draw. We've got 28. So I'll go ahead and write that in the blank here, 28. Our next one is a plural noun. So a noun is a person, place, or thing. So a person could be a librarian, like myself. A place could be the library, like we're in today, and a thing could be the books that you want to check out. If it says plural, it means that you have more of one of those things. All right, so let's see what noun we get today. All right, I got cacti as our plural noun. This is already shaping up to be an interesting story, I can tell. All right, our next blank is an adjective. So an adjective is a descriptor word. So if I said, I'm cold, or that popsicle is cold, then that would be an adjective. So let's see what we get for our adjective. Sour. Interesting. So that's what we're going to write in there for our adjective. Next up, we have a food. I like food. Let's see what food we get. Spaghetti. Yummy. So let's go ahead and write spaghetti in there. I am so excited to read our story. All right, so now I'm going to fill in the same adjective and food again. All right, next up we have a verb. So a verb is an action word. So I could say, I run to the grocery store. Run would be our action word there. So let's see what verb we get. I pulled dance. That's a fun verb. All right, so let's write dance in there on that blank. So now we have another noun. So remember, that's a person, place, or thing. So I'm going to pull another noun. Gym teacher. That's an interesting noun. All right, gym teacher. So we've got another adjective, another descriptive word. So let's see. I got spicy. Spicy. And then lastly, I'm going to write that same adjective and food that we had towards the beginning. Let's see. All right, are you ready to read our story, The Legend of Jumping Jack? Let's see what we came up with. So, this is the legend of Jumping Jack. Jumping Jack got his nickname because he could leap over 28 cacti without breaking a sweat. Jumping Jack's favorite food in the world is sour spaghetti. It's an interesting choice. Eating sour spaghetti made Jack so happy he would dance for days and shout, I love gym teacher, so loud it made the birds spicy. The next time you feel a strong breeze, it was probably from Jack jumping to get his sour spaghetti. So as you can tell, the Mad Libs a lot of times end up being super silly, but that's my favorite type of story, and I hope you enjoy silly stories as well. And the fun thing about Mad Libs is you can do them again and again with different family members, fill them out with different blanks, and you kind of get a new story each time. So I have a Legend of Daring Dewey printable that you can do on your own at home. If you don't have a printer, that is totally okay. You can still just write your answers on a sheet of paper and fill them in the story as you read. So I hope you have fun creating your own Mad Lib story. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Tall Tales today. If you are interested in reading more, we have tons of Tall Tale books at the library, and we also have a bunch of ebooks you can read on our online platforms like Overdrive and Libby. So there's some folktale and Tall Tale books you can find online. Also, as I was creating this program, a lot of these stories reminded me of Greek mythology and Norse mythology stories. And so we have a bunch of mythology books for kids online as well. And you know what? A lot of these Tall Tale heroes reminded me of the comic book superheroes that we know and love today, because a lot of them have special powers like super strength, or they're really fast, and that reminded me a lot of superheroes. So we have tons of great superhero books for kids online that you can check out as well. I hope you had fun learning about Tall Tales today, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks, bye.